I'm Jessica Mitchell, 36, and I've spent 15 years building my real estate portfolio. Last Tuesday, one text message destroyed everything I'd worked for. While sipping coffee, my phone buzzed. It was from my brother Tyler. Hey Jess, sold that empty building you inherited from Grandpa. Family needed cash. Got $450 Kelvins. Signed papers yesterday. My heart stopped. That downtown property had just been rezoned. It was worth $8.5 million. Before I dive into how my brother cost me millions without even knowing it, let me know where you're watching from. Hit subscribe if you've ever had family make decisions without asking you first, and stick around to see how I fought back when everyone told me to give up. I wasn't always a real estate investor. Growing up in suburban Detroit, my family was firmly middle class until we weren't. My parents, Karen and Richard Mitchell, divorced when I was 14 and Tyler was 10. The financial fallout was immediate. Mom struggled to keep our house working 2 jobs while Dad's child support checks sometimes arrived late or not at all. Watching my mother's financial stress shaped me. By 16, I was working part-time at a local diner, saving every penny. I put myself through community college, then transferred to Michigan State for a business degree. Meanwhile, Tyler took a different path. He was the creative one, charismatic and full of big ideas, but with little follow-through. You always were the responsible one, Mom would say, a comment that both praised and burdened me. Our grandfather Malcolm was different, a self-made businessman who owned several commercial properties. He noticed my interest in real estate. During college breaks, I'd shadow him on property visits, soaking up his knowledge. Always buy where growth is heading, not where it already is, he'd advise, pointing out neighborhood patterns I hadn't noticed. When Grandpa Malcolm passed away 5 years ago, he left his investment portfolio divided among family members. My parents each received cash and stocks. Tyler got Grandpa's vintage car collection, which he promptly sold to fund his first business venture, a food truck that failed within 8 months. I received 2 properties, a small retail space that was already leased to a steady tenant and an old warehouse in what was then a neglected area downtown. The retail space provided immediate income, but the warehouse was Grandpa's final investment, one he'd made shortly before his death. That area's going to turn around, he told me confidently. Might take 10 years, but when it does, that building will be worth its weight in gold. The warehouse sat empty for 4 years. I paid the property taxes and maintenance costs, waiting for the right opportunity. Tyler never understood my patience. Why waste money on that eyesore? He'd ask whenever we drove past it. You could sell it and buy something that actually makes money. What Tyler didn't understand, what most of my family didn't grasp, was that I was playing the long game. 2 years ago, the city announced a revitalization plan for that exact neighborhood. Developers started buying properties. I watched values climb, but held firm. My patience was rewarded when, just last month, a developer approached me with an $8 million offer. I declined, knowing the city council was voting on rezoning the area from industrial to mixed use the following week. Once approved, my property's value would increase even further. Meanwhile, Tyler's financial situation deteriorated. After the food truck, he tried a custom t-shirt business, then a mobile car detailing service. Each venture began with enthusiasm but collapsed through mismanagement. At 32, he was living in a 1-bedroom apartment, drowning in credit card debt, and had recently lost his job as a sales representative when his company downsized. Mom always enabled him, slipping him money when he couldn't make rent, co-signing for his loans. Dad was the opposite tough love, all the way. He needs to learn consequences, Dad would argue during our family dinners. He's trying his best, Mom would counter. I usually stayed neutral, though I'd bailed Tyler out myself more times than I could count. For emergencies, I'd given him a spare set of keys to my properties. Just in case something happens and you can't reach me, I had explained. Last week, everything changed. The city council finally voted to approve the rezoning of the downtown district. My warehouse could now be developed into apartments, retail, or office space. The property value shot up overnight. 3 developers contacted me within days, the highest offer reaching $8.5 million. I was ecstatic, already planning to use some of the proceeds to help our family. Mom could finally retire, Tyler could clear his debts and get a fresh start. I'd even set aside money to help Dad with the medical bills from his recent knee replacement. I scheduled meetings with developers for the following week, looking forward to surprising my family with the good news. Then Tyler's text arrived and my world imploded. The coffee shop suddenly felt airless as I read Tyler's text again. My fingers trembled so badly I could barely dial his number. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. Ma'am, are you okay? The barista's concerned voice barely registered as I gathered my things, nearly knocking over my laptop in my haste. The 15-minute drive to Tyler's apartment became a blur of honking horns as I weaved through traffic, calling him repeatedly between frantic calls to my lawyer's office. Amanda, it's Jessica Mitchell. Emergency. Call me back immediately. My mind raced through possibilities. Maybe this was a joke. Maybe he meant a different property. Maybe sold meant something else entirely. But I knew better. Tyler had the keys. He knew I'd been paying taxes on an empty building for years, and our mother had been complaining about knee pain, putting off surgery because of the cost. I screeched into the parking lot of Tyler's apartment complex, a forgettable beige building on the outskirts of town. Taking the stairs two at a time, I pounded on his door until a sleepy-eyed Tyler opened it, his expression shifting from confusion to alarm as he registered my face. Jess, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? My voice echoed in the hallway. You sold my building without asking me? He stepped back, motioning me inside, eyes darting to neighbors' doors. I can explain. His apartment reflected his chaotic life, takeout containers on the coffee table, laundry spilling from a basket, job applications scattered across the counter. Explain then, I demanded, arms crossed. Explain how you sold my property without my permission. Tyler ran his hands through his disheveled hair. Mom needs surgery. Her knee is bone on bone. The pain keeps her up at night. Insurance denied coverage, calling it elective. We needed $43,000, and you didn't think to ask me for help? My voice cracked. We did! Remember last month when Mom mentioned her knee at dinner, you said you were land rich, cash poor because of your investments. I remembered the conversation differently. I'd mentioned being temporarily cash conservative because I was preparing for a major investment opportunity. I hadn't realized Mom's casual mention of knee pain was actually a plea for financial help. So instead of clarifying, you committed felony fraud? I didn't think of it that way. Tyler's voice grew defensive. That building's been empty for 5 years. You never use it. It's just sitting there costing you money in taxes. It was just rezoned last week. It's worth $8.5 million now. The color drained from Tyler's face. What? No, that's impossible. The city council approved the downtown rezoning. Developers have been calling me all week with offers. But Tyler sank onto his couch. The realtor said fair market value was $450,000. He showed me comparable sales. What realtor? I demanded. Henderson. Robert Henderson, he approached me last month, said he represented a buyer interested in the warehouse district, said he'd noticed the building was vacant and thought you might want to sell. My stomach dropped. Robert Henderson was notorious in local real estate circles, a predatory developer known for undervaluing properties and pressuring vulnerable owners to sell. And you didn't think to run this by me? Tyler's eyes welled up. I thought I was helping. Mom needed the money right away to schedule the surgery. I remembered I still had the keys you gave me for emergencies. His voice broke. This seemed like an emergency. So you forged my signature? The realization hit me like a physical blow. He nodded miserably. Henderson had all the paperwork ready, said it was a straightforward sale. He mimicked signing a document. I sank down beside him, suddenly exhausted. How did you even deposit the check? It wasn't a check. Henderson arranged a wire transfer to Mom's account yesterday. The surgery is scheduled for next week. I pulled out my phone and dialed Henderson's office number, which I recognized from his persistent voicemails over the past year. His receptionist answered cheerfully, Henderson Properties. Robert Henderson, please. This is Jessica Mitchell. One moment. After a long pause, a different voice came on. Miss Mitchell, this is Brian Winters, Mr. Henderson's attorney. He asked me to handle any calls from you. Put Henderson on the phone. Now. Mr. Henderson has nothing to discuss without legal representation present. If you wish to schedule a meeting, I hung up and turned to Tyler, who was openly crying now. I'm so sorry, Jess. I had no idea. I thought I was solving a problem. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to make him feel the full weight of what he'd done. But looking at my brother unemployed, desperate to help our mother, and now realizing he'd made a catastrophic mistake, I felt my anger tempered by a complicated mix of emotions. We need to call Mom, I said finally. And my lawyer, this isn't over. That night, alone, in my apartment, I alternated between rage and despair. $8.5 million. A life-changing amount that would have secured not just my future, but my entire family's. Now, it was gone, sold for pennies on the dollar by my well-meaning but reckless brother. I pulled out a photo album, flipping to pictures of Tyler and Mia's kids. There we were at the lake house, grinning with missing teeth. There was teenage Tyler at my college graduation, looking up at me with admiration. When had things gone so wrong between us? My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. I'm so sorry, Jessica. We never meant to hurt you. Please don't hate your brother. He thought he was doing the right thing. I closed the album, unable to respond. I didn't hate Tyler, but I wasn't sure our relationship or my financial future would ever recover from this. Amanda Wilson's law office projected exactly the image she cultivated: competent, expensive, and discreet. The morning after discovering Tyler's betrayal, I sat across from her mahogany desk, watching her review the documents I'd managed to obtain. This is. Amanda removed her reading glasses, choosing her words carefully. Problematic. Can we void the sale? He forged my signature. That's fraud. Yes, but it's complicated. She spread the papers before me. The forgery gives us grounds to challenge, certainly. But Henderson covered his tracks well. The documentation appears meticulous. He even had a notary present. A notary verified a forged signature? Amanda's expression was grim. We'll need to investigate that angle. Corrupting a notary is serious business. She outlined our options, none particularly appealing. We could file for an emergency injunction to halt any development while pursuing legal action to invalidate the sale, a process that could take years. Meanwhile, Henderson would likely countersue, dragging things out further. What about criminal charges? I asked quietly. Amanda didn't soften the blow. Against your brother? Yes, forgery is a criminal offense. If we push on that front, Tyler could face felony charges. The possibility sat like lead in my stomach. And Henderson? He clearly knew what he was doing. He targeted Tyler specifically. Harder to prove, but not impossible. I suggest we gather more information before deciding our approach. After leaving Amanda's office, I drove to the county records department. The clerk, a sympathetic woman named Margaret, helped me locate the transaction documents. Filed yesterday morning, she confirmed, handing me copies. Everything looks in order at first glance, but she lowered her voice. Awful quick closing for commercial real estate. Usually takes weeks, not days. I studied the paperwork. Henderson had created a shell company specifically for this purchase, Downtown Development Opportunities, LLC, incorporated just 3 weeks earlier. The property had been significantly undervalued, with no formal appraisal conducted. Can you check something else for me? I asked Margaret. Has Robert Henderson or any of his companies purchased other properties in that area recently? 20 minutes later, I had my answer. Henderson had acquired 6 properties in the warehouse district over the past 4 months, all significantly below market value, all from owners facing some kind of financial distress. My next stop was coffee with Rachel Foster, a college friend who now worked as a commercial real estate agent. Henderson approached me about your warehouse last year, Rachel revealed, stirring her latte. Wanted me to contact you, offer $400,000. I told him it was insulting and that you weren't interested in selling. He never mentioned that to me, I said. Not surprising. He's known for end-running agents approaching owners directly, or in your case, finding another way in. Rachel's expression darkened. The man's a vulture. He watches for distress signals, deaths in the family, tax liens, foreclosures, then swoops in with lowball cash offers. But how did he know about the rezoning before it was public? I wondered aloud. Rachel shrugged. Henderson has connections at City Hall, always seems to be one step ahead on zoning changes, infrastructure announcements, tax incentives. After leaving Rachel, I drove downtown to see my building, or what used to be my building. A survey crew was already taking measurements while men in suits examined the exterior. One of them was unmistakably Robert Henderson, his silver hair gleaming in the afternoon sun, his posture radiating satisfaction. I parked and walked over, professional smile firmly in place. Mr. Henderson? He turned, recognition flickering across his face. Miss Mitchell, I was wondering when you'd appear. I'd like to discuss the sale of my property. Henderson's smile didn't reach his eyes. I believe you mean my property. Purchased legally, with documentation signed by the owner. We both know that signature was forged. Serious accusation. He glanced at his colleagues. Gentlemen, give us a moment. Once they stepped away, Henderson's demeanor changed completely. Listen carefully. I have a signed contract, witnesses to the signing, and a wire transfer confirming payment. You have what? A brother who committed fraud? I wonder how that story plays out in court. You knowingly manipulated him. You knew about the rezoning before. Prove it. His voice was ice. Meanwhile, your brother faces felony charges, your mother loses her surgery money, and you spend years in litigation bleeding attorney fees. He straightened his Italian silk tie. Or we can all move on. Your choice. This isn't over, I said, turning to leave. Oh, and Miss Mitchell? Henderson called after me. I've already filed the property transfer with the city. Demolition begins next week. Better decide quickly. That evening, Amanda called with worse news. Henderson's attorney contacted me. They're aware the signature was forged. So they admit no. They're using it as leverage. If you pursue invalidating the sale, they'll press charges against Tyler. Their words, criminal fraud has consequences. I closed my eyes, the full weight of the situation crushing down. He's threatening us. Essentially, they offered a settlement, $1 million, to walk away and keep Tyler out of legal trouble. $1 million versus $8.5 million, a terrible deal, but potentially the only way to save my brother from prison. What do we do? Amanda's voice was measured. We need more information. Henderson's confidence suggests he has protection somewhere. If he knew about the rezoning early, that's corruption. Yes. And potentially our leverage. Mom's house hadn't changed much since my childhood. Same floral couch, same family photos lining the hallway, same smell of cinnamon and coffee. But the atmosphere that evening was anything but familiar as our family gathered in tense silence. Dad arrived last, his disapproval evident in every movement as he nodded curtly to Tyler before taking a seat in his old armchair. Despite their divorce, Mom had called him for this emergency family meeting. Let's get to the point, Dad said. Never one for small talk. Tyler sold Jessica's property without permission, costing her millions. Now we're all in this mess. Mom sat straighter, defensive. Richard, this isn't just Tyler's fault. We were desperate for the surgery money. So desperate you encouraged fraud? Dad's voice rose. I didn't know it was worth so much, Mom protested. None of us did. I interrupted before their familiar argument pattern took over. What matters now is how we handle this. Henderson is threatening to press charges against Tyler if we challenge the sale. Tyler hadn't spoken yet. He sat hunched on the ottoman, eyes red-rimmed. I'll turn myself in, he said suddenly. Tell the police I forged the documents. Jessica shouldn't lose her property because of me. No one's turning themselves in, I said firmly. Why not? Dad challenged. Actions have consequences. Tyler made his choice. Dad! I snapped. This isn't helping. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. The surgery's scheduled for Tuesday. I can cancel it, return the money. It won't matter, I explained gently. The sale has been recorded. The money was just the consideration. Returning it doesn't void the contract. Then what do we do? Mom asked. I detailed Amanda's assessment and Henderson's settlement offer. Take the $1 million, Dad advised immediately. Cut your losses. $1 million is still a lot of money. It's a fraction of what the property's worth, I argued. But Tyler stays out of jail, Mom countered. Tyler finally looked up. No. Jessica shouldn't settle. That building was her future. Henderson targeted me specifically. He approached me at the gym last month, mentioned he was interested in warehouse properties, said he noticed one in Grandpa's old portfolio that looked abandoned. I frowned. How would he connect that building to you? He did his research, Tyler admitted, mentioned Grandpa by name, said he'd heard we inherited his properties, asked if I knew if you were interested in selling. The calculated nature of Henderson's approach confirmed my suspicions. This wasn't opportunistic. He targeted you to get to my property. I still shouldn't have done it, Tyler said, voice breaking. But Mom was in so much pain and you seemed so busy with your other investments, I thought I was helping. By forging my signature? By making decisions about my property without even a phone call? You never take my calls when you're in your business mode, Tyler shot back. You're always too busy for family unless it's on your schedule. The accusation stung because it contained a kernel of truth. I had been increasingly absorbed in my work, often screening calls during business hours. That's unfair, I protested. I've always been there when it really matters. Have you? Mom interjected softly. Jessica, we're so proud of your success, but sometimes it feels like you've left us behind. You talk about property values and investment returns while your brother struggles to find work, and I put off surgery because of money. You could have asked me directly for help with the surgery, I said, hurt blooming in my chest. Would you have listened? Mom's question hung in the air. Dad cleared his throat. Karen, that's not fair. Jessica works hard for her success. I know that, Mom sighed. I just wish sometimes she'd remember that money isn't everything. Family matters too. The room fell silent as I absorbed the painful truth. My family didn't see me as their reliable rock. They saw me as distant, preoccupied with wealth while they struggled. The realization was a knife twist. I was going to help everyone after the sale, I said quietly. That's what the money was for. Mom's surgery, Dad's medical bills, Tyler's debt. I wanted to surprise you. Tyler looked up, surprise evident on his face. Really? Of course. What did you think I was going to do with it? Hoard it all? The guilty glances exchanged between my family members answered my question. They'd assumed exactly that. I need some air, I said, standing abruptly. Outside on Mom's porch, I leaned against the railing, fighting tears. Years of being the responsible one, of building security for myself, and ultimately them, and they saw me as selfish. The door opened behind me. Dad stepped out, hands in his pockets. Your mother means well, he offered. I know. For what it's worth, I've always admired your drive, he said, surprising me. Reminds me of your grandfather. I was going to take care of everyone, I repeated, my voice small. Dad nodded. I believe you. The question now is, what's your next move? Henderson clearly targeted your brother to get your property cheaply. That feels like more than just a savvy business tactic. It's not just savvy, it's suspicious, I agreed, wiping my eyes. He knew about the rezoning before it was public. Someone tipped him off. Dad's expression hardened. Then maybe that's your angle. Not just fighting for your property, but exposing whatever's happening behind the scenes. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a glimmer of resolve. I need to talk to Tyler again. I think Henderson revealed more than he realized. Back inside, the conversation had shifted. Mom was explaining her surgery details while Tyler listened attentively. They both looked up when I entered. I'm not giving up, I announced, but I need everyone's help. Tyler, I need to know exactly what Henderson said to you, every detail you can remember. And, Mom, I need you to postpone your surgery by 2 weeks if possible. What are you planning? Mom asked. I'm going to fight for what's mine, I said firmly, and I'm going to need my family behind me. The tension in the room shifted subtly as Tyler straightened his shoulders. I'm with you, whatever you need. For the first time in years, I felt like we were truly on the same team. Robert Henderson had built his fortune through what most called smart acquisitions. I was beginning to see them for what they really were: predatory opportunism at best, corruption at worst. The day after our family meeting, I immersed myself in research, creating a detailed timeline of Henderson's downtown purchases. Every property followed the same pattern: acquired below market value, often from owners in distress, shortly before public announcements that would increase the property's value. The coincidences were too numerous to ignore. My research led me to the city planning department, where I requested a meeting with Daniel Carter, a mid-level administrator I'd encountered during the rezoning application process. He seemed reluctant to see me, but eventually agreed to a coffee meeting away from his office. I can't tell you anything that isn't public record, he warned immediately, fidgeting with his coffee cup. I understand, I'm just trying to piece together the timeline of the downtown rezoning approval. Daniel's eyes darted around the cafe. Standard process, applications, review, public comment period, council vote. When did Henderson submit his project proposals for the area? Daniel hesitated. You'd need to file a records request for specific dates. Interesting, because I already did. I slid a folder across the table. These are Henderson's project submissions for 6 properties in the warehouse district. Notice the dates? Daniel glanced at the documents, his discomfort visible. He submitted detailed development plans requiring mixed-use zoning 2 months before the council vote, I continued. Before public discussion even began. Almost as if... I should get back to work, Daniel interrupted, standing abruptly. Almost as if he knew the rezoning was guaranteed, I finished. Does the name Jason Henderson mean anything to you? Daniel froze. What are you implying? Nothing yet. But Jason Henderson, Robert's cousin, works in your department, doesn't he? Senior planner, I believe. Daniel's silence confirmed my suspicion. I'm not looking to cause trouble for you, I assured him. I just want to understand how Henderson always seems to be one step ahead of public announcements. I can't help you, Daniel said, but his expression told a different story. But hypothetically speaking, someone concerned about procedural irregularities might look into communications between certain council members and developers before official votes. He left quickly after that, but had given me enough to pursue my next lead. I hired Marcus Green, a private investigator recommended by Amanda, to dig deeper into Henderson's connections. City council members are subject to public records requests, Marcus explained in his sparse office 2 days later. Their official emails and phone logs can be obtained, though it takes time. We don't have time, I stressed. Henderson's starting demolition next week. Marcus leaned back in his chair. There are faster methods, less official channels, more expensive though. I wrote him a check without hesitation. Find me something I can use. While Marcus worked his sources, I focused on a different angle. The next city council meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening, the perfect public forum to raise questions. The council chambers were half empty when I arrived, mostly occupied by citizens concerned about local traffic ordinances. I waited through 2 hours of mundane civic business before the public comment period began. When my name was called, I approached the podium with confidence born of preparation. My name is Jessica Mitchell. I'm here to discuss the recent downtown rezoning decision. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Specifically, I'd like to understand how certain developers seem to have advanced knowledge of the rezoning before the public vote. Councilwoman Beverly Reed interrupted. Miss Mitchell, public comment isn't the venue for accusations. I'm not making accusations, just asking for transparency, I countered smoothly. Robert Henderson submitted detailed development plans requiring mixed-use zoning 2 months before this council's vote. His company incorporated an LLC specifically to purchase properties in the affected area weeks before the public announcement. From the corner of my eye, I spotted Henderson himself entering the chamber, his face darkening as he realized what was happening. Additionally, I continued, Henderson has acquired 7 properties in the district at below market values, including 1 obtained through documented fraud. That's enough, Council President William Chambers declared. This body doesn't adjudicate private real estate disputes. Perhaps not, I agreed. but it does have an obligation to ensure zoning decisions aren't influenced by improper relationships between council members and developers who profit from advance information. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Henderson was now conferring urgently with a man I recognized as Councilman James Davis. "Your time is up, Miss Mitchell," Chambers announced, but the damage was done. Local reporters were already scribbling notes, and several citizens had raised their hands to speak. Henderson caught up to me in the parking lot, his typical polish replaced by barely contained fury. "You're making a serious mistake," he hissed. "Am I? Or are you worried about what happens when people start asking questions about how you always know about zoning changes before they happen? You have no idea who you're dealing with." Actually, I think I do. I met his gaze steadily, a bully who preys on vulnerable people and thinks his connections make him untouchable. Henderson stepped closer. "Listen carefully. Drop this now. Take the settlement, or watch your brother go to prison while you spend years in litigation you can't afford." "I'll take my chances," I replied, walking away with a confidence I didn't entirely feel. That night, my phone rang with an unlisted number. "Jessica Mitchell? A male voice, un familiar." "Yes?" "Stop asking questions about Henderson and the council. Some things aren't worth the trouble they'll bring you." The line went dead before I could respond. The next morning, I met with Tyler at his apartment, increasingly convinced that Henderson's approach to him hadn't been random opportunity, but calculated strategy. "I need you to remember exactly how Henderson first contacted you," I pressed. Tyler frowned in concentration. It was at Planet Fitness. He spotted me wearing Grandpa's old University of Michigan sweatshirt and mentioned he'd known him. Wait, he claimed to know Grandpa, said they'd been in a business group together years ago, seemed to know about his properties, mentioned the warehouse specifically. This was new information. Did he approach you again after that? Called me a week later, said he had a client interested in the warehouse, asked if I could sound you out about selling. When I mentioned mom's surgery needs, he said he might be able to help. Offered to clear my credit card debt too if I could facilitate a quick, quiet sale. I stared at my brother. "Tyler, that's not just taking advantage of you. That's deliberately inducing you to commit fraud." "I know that now," he said miserably. "I just thought it seemed like a solution to everything. Mom gets her surgery, my debt problems disappear, and you get rid of a building you never talked about using." A terrible suspicion formed. "Did Henderson help you with the documents? Show you how to sign my name?" Tyler's expression confirmed it before he spoke. "He had a template from another document with your signature, said to practice copying it exactly." "That's premeditation. He set you up to commit a crime." Before Tyler could respond, my phone rang. It was Marcus. "I have something," the investigator said without preamble. "Can you meet me at my office in an hour?" When I arrived, Marcus handed me a sealed envelope. "Source in the planning department. Wants to remain anonymous for obvious reasons." Inside was a thumb drive and a handwritten note. "Thought you should see these. Be careful." Marcus plugged the drive into his computer. It contained dozens of emails between Jason Henderson and his cousin Robert spanning the past year. The messages discussed inside information about upcoming zoning changes, property assessments, and infrastructure plans. Most damning was an email from 3 months ago where Jason wrote, "Council vote for warehouse district rezoning confirmed for May. Already have Davis, Richards, and Wong on board. Start acquiring now, 6 months before values triple." This is it, I breathed. Proof of insider information driving Henderson's acquisitions. "Including yours," Marcus noted. "There's more. Henderson specifically mentions your property in several emails, calls it the crown jewel because of its corner location." I scrolled through, finding the exchange. What I read made my blood boil. "Mitchell property, most valuable of all targeted acquisitions," Robert had written. "Owner unlikely to sell before rezoning announcement. Need alternative approach." Jason's response. "Brother might be angle, financial troubles, co-signed mother's medical loans. Approach through gym connection." They had plotted the entire thing, deliberately targeting Tyler as my vulnerable point of access. As I left Marcus's office with copies of the evidence, my phone rang again. It was Amanda. Henderson's attorney called. They filed criminal complaints against Tyler for forgery and fraud, arraignment scheduled for Monday morning. Henderson had made his move, now it was my turn. Amanda's conference room filled quickly for our emergency strategy meeting. Besides my lawyer, I'd assembled Marcus with his evidence, Rachel, to provide real estate expertise, and a new addition, Elaine Porter, a former prosecutor now specializing in white-collar crime. "Henderson's playing hardball," Amanda began, spreading documents across the table. "The criminal complaint against Tyler is just the beginning. He's also filed for expedited demolition permits. He's rushing to create irreversible progress," Rachel noted. "Once that building comes down, your claim becomes much harder to pursue." "We need to fight on multiple fronts," I said, outlining the approach I'd been formulating. legal action to invalidate the sale, criminal investigation into Henderson's corruption, and public pressure through media exposure. Elaine studied the emails Marcus had obtained. This is compelling evidence of insider trading in real estate. The SEC might be interested, along with the district attorney. Henderson has connections in both offices, Marcus warned. Then we go higher, I decided. State Attorney General. FBI Public Corruption Unit. That takes time, Amanda cautioned. Meanwhile, Tyler faces arraignment Monday, and demolition could start Tuesday. We need an emergency injunction, Elaine suggested, based on evidence of fraud in the underlying transaction. And we need Henderson to feel pressure from all sides, I added. I've already laid groundwork at the city council meeting. Local reporters are asking questions. We crafted our approach carefully. Amanda would file for the emergency injunction first thing Monday morning. Elaine would prepare a comprehensive package for the state attorney general. Marcus would continue gathering evidence of Henderson's pattern of suspicious acquisitions. My role would be the most direct and potentially risky. Henderson offered a settlement once, I reminded the team. $1 million to walk away. Let's use that as an opening to get him talking. If I can record him making admissions, dangerous game, Amanda warned, and potentially inadmissible depending on how it's obtained. I'll be careful, I promised, but Henderson's arrogance is his weakness. He thinks he's untouchable. As our meeting concluded, I received an unexpected call from Henderson himself. Miss Mitchell, I understand your brother's been formally charged. Unfortunate situation. His smug tone made my skin crawl. What do you want, Henderson? To resolve this amicably, my previous offer stands $1 million to walk away. Given your brother's legal situation, I'd consider that quite generous. Let's discuss in person, I suggested, forcing neutrality into my voice. Tomorrow morning, my office. Sending your attack dogs to threaten me won't work, he warned. No lawyers, just us. Business to business. After a pause, he agreed. 9 a.m. Come prepared to be reasonable. The following morning, Henderson arrived precisely on time, looking immaculate in an expensive suit that contrasted with my deliberately casual business attire. I wanted him comfortable, overconfident. Coffee? I offered, gesturing to the service I'd arranged. Black, no sugar. He settled into the chair across from my desk. Let's not waste time. Your position is untenable. Your brother committed fraud, documented by multiple witnesses. The property transfer is complete and legal. I nodded thoughtfully. You've certainly covered your bases. I always do. Like with the council members you influenced for the rezoning? His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Careful with accusations you can't substantiate. Oh, I can substantiate plenty. I slid a folder across the desk. Copies only, of course. Originals are safely stored with multiple attorneys. Henderson flipped through the emails between him and his cousin, his complexion gradually paling. Where did you get these? He demanded. People in glass houses eventually throw stones, I replied calmly. Your cousin got nervous when questions started circulating about procedural irregularities. Henderson closed the folder with deliberate care. What do you want? My building back, full restoration of ownership, plus $2 million in damages for the trouble you've caused. He laughed, but it sounded forced. Or what? You'll go public? Those emails prove nothing criminal. Perhaps not alone. But combined with your documented pattern of acquiring properties before public announcements, your cousin's position in the planning department, your payments to certain council members, I let the implication hang. You're bluffing about the payments. I shrugged. The state attorney general can determine that. Their public corruption unit is quite thorough, I hear. Henderson leaned forward. You're playing a dangerous game. People like me don't lose. First time for everything. I could double my settlement offer. $2 million. Final offer. Not interested in settlements anymore. I want justice. Henderson's mask of civility finally slipped. Your brother goes to prison. I'll make sure of it. No, I don't think he will. Especially after he testifies about how you provided him with a template of my signature and explicitly instructed him on committing forgery. That's solicitation and conspiracy, much more serious than what Tyler did. Henderson stood abruptly. This meeting is over. My attorneys will contact yours. One more thing. I called as he reached the door. The demolition permits you rush through, temporarily suspended as of this morning. Judge Harriman signed the emergency injunction an hour ago. His face contorted with barely controlled rage before he stormed out. By that afternoon, events were moving rapidly. The local newspaper ran a front-page story questioning the process behind downtown rezoning approvals. 2 council members issued statements denying improper influence but acknowledging concerns about procedural transparency. Most significantly, Tyler's arraignment took an unexpected turn when the district attorney's office requested a continuance, citing new evidence requiring review. Amanda's contact suggested the DA was now investigating Henderson's role in soliciting the forgery. That evening, I received a call from an unknown number. Miss Mitchell, a woman's voice, professionally detached. This is Special Agent Diana Reyes with the FBI Public Corruption Task Force. We've received some materials regarding Robert Henderson and would like to speak with you tomorrow. The following week became a whirlwind. Tyler's criminal charges were temporarily suspended pending investigation into Henderson's actions. The emergency injunction blocking demolition was extended after our initial hearing presented the email evidence. Most surprisingly, Henderson's attorney contacted Amanda with a dramatically different tone. My client wishes to explore resolution options. He began tentatively. Our terms haven't changed, Amanda replied firmly. Property return, damages paid. Mr. Henderson would be willing to rescind the purchase contract the attorney offered. As for damages, $3 million, I interjected, non-negotiable, plus a sworn statement acknowledging how the sale was obtained. After consultation with Henderson, the attorney called back. He'll agree to rescind the sale and pay $2 million in damages. No statement. Then we proceed with all legal actions and cooperate fully with the FBI investigation, Amanda replied. 2 days later, they accepted our terms in full. The victory felt surreal after weeks of crisis. The property would be mine again, plus substantial damages. The FBI investigation into Henderson and the council members continued independently, now beyond my control. Most importantly, Tyler wouldn't face charges. Our family could begin healing. Mom's surgery was rescheduled successfully. Though I insisted on paying for it properly, the experience had changed our family dynamic. Tyler had begun attending financial counseling, looking for stable employment rather than the next get-rich-quick venture. Dad had softened his tough love stance, acknowledging Tyler's genuine remorse. As for me, I'd learned painful but necessary lessons about communication, assumptions, and the true value of what I was building. 3 months after that fateful text message, I stood in the empty warehouse that had nearly slipped through my fingers. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating the potential that my grandfather had recognized years before. The legal proceedings had concluded more favorably than I could have hoped. The sale was invalidated completely, with Henderson paying $2 million in damages. He'd also signed a sworn statement admitting to targeting Tyler specifically to circumvent normal sales procedures. The wider corruption investigation continued. 2 council members had resigned, and Henderson's cousin had been fired from the planning department. Henderson himself faced multiple investigations, his reputation in tatters. For our family, the healing process had been complicated but meaningful. Mom's knee surgery was successful, and her recovery was progressing well. I'd set up a proper healthcare fund for both my parents, ensuring future medical needs wouldn't create similar crises. Tyler had found unexpected purpose through the ordeal. His first-hand experience with Henderson's manipulation had sparked an interest in consumer protection. He'd enrolled in community college courses and found part-time work at a nonprofit helping vulnerable homeowners avoid predatory schemes. I know what to look for now, he'd explained with newfound confidence. I can help people avoid what happened to us. The building itself was entering a new chapter. Rather than selling to the highest bidder, I decided to develop it myself. The plans included mixed-use space combining retail, offices, and most importantly, affordable housing units. Grandpa would have liked this approach, Dad commented during a site visit, his approval meaning more than I'd expected. The development would still be profitable, though less immediately lucrative than an outright sale, but it would provide sustainable income while benefiting the community, a legacy investment rather than a quick windfall. Tyler had shown unexpected interest in the project, offering to help coordinate with community groups to ensure the development served neighborhood needs. I'm not asking for a job, he'd clarified, just a chance to contribute something positive after nearly destroying everything. I'd accepted his offer, establishing clear boundaries and expectations. Our working relationship was tentative but improving, built on a new foundation of mutual respect. Mom had observed the change with quiet satisfaction. You two are finally seeing each other clearly, she noted during Sunday dinner. Not just the child who needed protection or the sister who had all the answers. The experience had forced me to recognize hard truths about myself. My focus on financial success had created distance between me and my family. My resentment at always being the responsible one had blinded me to their perspectives. Success means different things to different people. I explained to a group of young entrepreneurs who'd invited me to speak about my experience. I was building wealth but neglecting the relationships that give that wealth, meaning perhaps the most profound lesson was about forgiveness, both giving and receiving it. Tyler and I had wounded each other in different ways over the years. The crisis had brought those hurts to the surface, creating an opportunity for genuine healing. I always envied your confidence, Tyler admitted during one of our site meetings, how you always knew what you wanted and went after it. And I envied your creativity and ability to connect with people, I confessed. We could have been helping each other all along instead of competing. 1 year after the crisis, we held a groundbreaking ceremony for the Mitchell Place development. The entire family attended, along with community members, local officials, and even a few former adversaries who'd chosen cooperation over corruption when investigations began. As I addressed the gathered crowd, I caught sight of my family in the front row, Mom standing tall with her new knee, Dad nodding with uncharacteristic openness, Tyler watching with clear pride. This building represents more than just an investment, I told the audience. It's a reminder that true value isn't measured solely in dollars. It's found in integrity, in community benefit, and in the strength of our connections to each other. The property that had nearly torn my family apart had ultimately brought us closer together. The $8.5 million value remained significant, but no longer defined the building's worth to me. Instead, I measured its value in the affordable housing it would provide, in the small businesses it would support, in the healing it had catalyzed within my family, and in the lessons it had taught me about what truly matters. I closed my remarks with words that applied equally to buildings and relationships. The strongest foundations are built on honesty, mutual respect, and the willingness to recognize when repairs are needed. With those elements in place, what we build together can withstand any storm. As we celebrate this milestone today, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to choose between financial gain and family harmony? What boundaries have you established that help strengthen your relationships? Leave a comment below, and if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for being part of this journey, and remember, sometimes our greatest challenges lead to our most meaningful growth.